afternoon, everybody, and welcome to DogCatFox and Friend. Me being the friend, and DogCatFox being the DogCatFox. Wowie, wow, wow. And we are here to regale you with different stories and topics and rants and subjects that had caused me interest over the course of the week. I am here with one of my special birthday season Pepper Jacks. I have my actual cane sugar Dr. Pepper and Jack Daniels. Let's see. Oh, that's a bit more Jack than Pepper there, but that's fine. That's fine. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. We'll be fine. And who all is we on this beautiful Saturday afternoon? Mike R., good afternoon. The Alexander, good afternoon. Walter Tomaszewski, I hear DogCatFox will sing and scribe on a straw hat and red and white striped coat, tap shoes, and a cane at tap dance for you. You vastly overestimate the extent of my skills, Walter Tomaszewski. I don't know what to tell you, but I appreciate the sentiment. Keeverdam, hello, and thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the links to the fundraisers for our friends Twisted Skipster and Angela Arriaga. Guys, please take a look at that at the top of the chat box. Twisted Skipster is trying to raise money for his daughter's wrestling club, and Angela Arriaga is looking to start her own home-based business. So if you are able to donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the links. Old Guy Gamer, good afternoon. Cynic, hello. Fostonia, hello. Adam Nixon, hello. Hope you're feeling better, Adam. Take care of yourself. Toot Sweet, hello. Unfair Ophelia, good afternoon. Mike Savage, blarg. Robert Pincus, hello. Simon Willikins, hello. Who else is here? John Traxon, hello. Blue-Eyed Scream, good afternoon. Dr. Functional, hello. Mr. Yes, cousin of Dr. No, just with less sort of scholastic ambition, that's all. Attack Alpaca, hello. Juliet, good afternoon. Holy Cats, Derek LaRue, how are you? Thank you, Derek, so much, as always, for your generosity and support. Very much appreciate it. Hope you're having a good Saturday and hope you enjoy the show. Judaphine, good afternoon. And anybody else I missed, anybody lurking, anybody in the future, hello. All right, so tonight, this afternoon, whatever, we're going to start with a suggestion from viewer Jill Powers, the River Daughter, who was curious for me to take a look at a story regarding literacy in the United States. As you know, I have an English major, or an English degree, not an English major. I have a degree. It's on the wall, right off to my right, on the wall. There's a degree up there, College of Arts and Sciences, Bachelor of Arts, English. It's right there. I swears it is right there. But apparently there is quite the issue of a lack of literacy in this country, so much so that even school teachers are frustrated enough to quit their jobs. So let's take a look at that here. Not a very happy portrait. Gen Z teacher quits. Reveals why she thinks high school students are doomed. This comes from Newsweek as of the 13th of this month. A Gen Z teacher has shared why she left the profession in a social media video that has been viewed millions of times. Hannah Maria, which sounds like a song title, who taught 10th grade English, sounded the alarm on the impact of technology on kids in a 9-minute video. Why it matters. Newsweek has to tell us in a subheading why it matters. We can't derive that ourselves from the text. As of 2024, 21% of adults in the U.S. were found to be illiterate. Holy cow, with 54% of adults having a literacy rate below a 6th grade level. Low literacy costs the country up to $2.2 trillion a year, according to the National Literacy Institute. I'll have to take their word for it, I guess. A report released in January 2025 from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, found that the reading and math skills of 4th and 8th grade students have declined in multiple states to below the national average. Well, don't you know that English is racist or something? I'm sure that's somewhere in there. At the time of reporting, the video had been reshared to X, where it has been viewed 4.3 million times. The TikTok account where the original video was posted has been set to private. Oh. Filming in a classroom shortly ahead of her last day of teaching, Hannah Maria, I want to say Hanna-Barbera, But anyway, Hannah Maria said that the, quote, technology is ruining education. School boards and superintendents and people who actually can make this true difference in their school districts aren't listening, she says in the video. She shared that she teaches in a district where each student is given an iPad from 6th to 12th grade. Yeah, I'd say learn to operate without a gadget, first and foremost. You'd think that would be basic, but what do I know? Hannah Maria, who said that she is an older Gen Z. Doesn't that kind of like make you a younger Gen Y? Said that the technology is directly contributing to the literacy decrease we are seeing. Okay. A lot of these kids don't know how to read because they have had things read to them, or they can click a button and have things read out loud to them, she said. She also said that children's, quote, attention spans were waning because everything is high stimulation. They can just scroll, adding that kids, quote, can't sit still for very long. Well, I can attest to that. Even I, who existed long before social media and instantaneous moving around on scrolling and clicking and all that kind of stuff, my attention span has certainly taken a hit over the last several years. I've noticed it. It's very frustrating. I'm trying to get it back, but it's tough. She adds that when trying to get children she teaches to handwrite, they don't corporate? They don't corporate. Okay, hold on. Okay, of all the times when you should double check your work in writing an article, it should be the one where you're talking about the importance of literacy. Good gravy, Newsweek. Anyway, she adds that when trying to get children she teaches to handwrite, they don't corporate rolling their eyes or throwing tantrums. Hannah Maria, speaking in her viral TikTok video, quote, I don't think these kids even care. They don't care about making a difference in the world. I think that we need to cut off technology from these kids, probably until they go to college, unquote. Well, here's the thing. Change begins at home. Once again, where are the parents in this? Parents should be reading to their children. They should be showing them the basics. If I were a parent, I would restrict my child from having anything to do with gadgets and gizmos and technology that would otherwise stunt their skills and abilities until they were in their teens, at least, as much as I could. I still operate with a dumb phone. I don't have a smartphone, don't get to scroll through stuff or click on an app to do something for me. No, I have removed that possibility from my everyday existence. But all the same, yeah, if I had a child, they would learn to handwrite. They would learn to read a book, take the time and the patience to get through something. When it came to looking up information, I'd make sure I have a relatively recent encyclopedia on the shelf and say, well, go look it up. Read the answer to the question. Don't just go to Wikipedia and trust this, that, or the other. Click this and that. Nuh-uh. What's next? President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. What's that got to do with taking away gadgets from school children? That former President Jimmy Carter founded 45 years ago, which could change the face of education in America. That's how you round out your article? That's how you round it? Okay, how will eliminating the Department of Education, or dismantling it, how will that take technology and shortcuts in education and skills attainment away from children in public schools? Okay. Fairness meter. Oh, this is new. Newsweek is committed to journalism that's factual and fair. Hold us accountable and submit your rating of this article on the meter. Well, I hate to tell you this, but, there was somebody else in charge of the Department of Education for the prior 6 years. Or 4 years thereabouts. So, I'd say this is, it's also, first off, it's incomplete, it's badly edited and proofread, and it also somehow is blaming Donald Trump or something. Yeah, no. I'm going to confirm my selection. There you go. Whatever that means. Anyway, so thank you, Jill Powers, the River Daughter. Not exactly a story to cheer me up, but it is reality, apparently. The Dead Man, good afternoon. Anybody else I missed? Morgan King, hello. Abdicatus Diaboli, hello. Anybody else I missed in the meantime? I don't think so. If I did, make yourself known, and I'll be sure to say hello if I see you. But yeah, that was just topic number one. There was something else I wanted to do here. So this is going to be a little different. So I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's like an hour and 20 minutes long. But I'm going to play at least the first maybe 5 or 7 minutes of this thing because it just struck me as it just sort of encapsulated a topic that has frustrated me, not just within the last couple of weeks when it suddenly bubbled up again, but really since probably summer of 2024. And that's specifically the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, where everyone and their brother in left-wing media and political realms suddenly realized that something was wrong with Joe Biden. And that has continued forward up until, obviously, the last week or two when the audio from the H-U-R interviews came out, and Jake Tapper's amazingly expose book was suddenly released, revealing to the world for the first time that not only was Joe Biden mentally compromised, but the people around him helped cover it up. Oh my gosh, can you guys believe it? Rotten Corpse, there was a link to submit correction. I'm not going to do their work for them. Newsweek is purportedly a professional news organization. They can live with their mistake. They can have it out there to embarrass themselves and anybody else who reads it out loud. That's their job. I'm not going to do their work. They want to pay me? All right, I'll proofread their stuff for them if they want to send me a check. But no, that's their problem. They get to sit with it. They have to live with it. That's what I say. Anyway, so there's this show, this podcast / YouTube deal called The Ezra Klein Show. Ezra Klein is a long-time left-wing / progressive quote-unquote journalist. And he got to interview Jake Tapper this week. And I listened to the first few minutes of it, and I had to pause on a regular basis and just like pontificate to no one in the room because it was so ridiculous what they were saying or so self-serving. And I kind of just wanted to share that with you. So the title of this podcast is How Groupthink Protected Biden and Re-elected Trump. We're only going to listen to a part of this. Like I say, the first 5 or 7 minutes or so of the first section. Because really the opening is where the meat of the matter lies, I think. So I'm going to take a look at that. First over to the chat over here. Advocates Diablo, with the focus on LGBT schools, I am surprised they don't teach cursive, the gayest of writing stuff. You know, when I was growing up, they had just changed the curriculum. I think it was in the first year of this, where they changed from cursive to italics. So I was part of sort of like an experimental period of time in education. And italics was just connecting the letters and making it kind of a swirly little loop kind of thing. It wasn't cursive, it wasn't fancy, it wasn't pretty. It was just at the end of every letter tailed off to create the next letter, and it all looked really silly to me. And then I look back at my mother's handwriting or my father's handwriting, and I'm jealous because I never learned. I don't have the muscle memory for that. I wish I had learned cursive. I can see my handwriting look all pretty and stuff. You know, make it classic, like reading like an old Civil War letter or something. Instead, it's just this very mechanical chaining together of letters, and I didn't like it. But I wasn't taught anything else, and I didn't really have an appreciation for what I wasn't taught until later on in life, and I was just like, oh. So, oh well. Sharp as attack. Obviously, you're referring to me. Obviously. Advocate said Jake Tapper. Yeah, Tapper. That's where my one went to Tapper. Yeah, I know. He might be some kind of long-snouted animal, I suppose. Hey, it's Ranting Monkey. Hey, Ranting Monkey. You want to listen to Ezra Klein with me? Or have you already listened to this? Hey guys, if you don't know about Ranting Monkey, take a look at the Ranting Monkey channel on YouTube. He talks about stuff like I do on a much more frequent basis, like nearly every other night, or every night, with the Jack Cochran, which is also kind of like the other me, depending. The lovely Sherry, hello. Anybody else that I see? Oh my gosh, Keeverdam, thank you so much. I adore cursive. Oh, well. Wait, you can change fonts? Wait, I didn't know you could do that. Well, first off, thank you, Keeverdam, for your generosity. But you can change fonts and super chats? What is this dark magic you're practicing? What is this? Keeverdam. If I hadn't just woke up, I would. Well, then take your time. Get woke, monkey. Get woke. We'll still be here for you. Anyway, so let's listen to the first few minutes of the Ezra Klein show talking about the groupthink that allowed Biden to operate. And let's see what they have to say. Now, just a warning, in order to avoid, as I've learned of late, again, or be reminded of, I have to stop this every 10 seconds or so to make sure that it's all transformative and I don't, step on any landmines when it comes to content matching or them not understanding this fair use. So I will occasionally have to stop, but fortunately, nearly every other sentence that they say is something worth talking about. Oh, and Fostonia, thank you so much. Cursive, an elegant writing for a more civilized age. Exactly. And the lovely Sherry gave us this, I don't know, it's like Old English font. What is going on here? What is going on here? Ad? What you mean for Ranting Monkey? Well, it's kind of like an ad, I suppose. But speaking of ads, I forgot to tell you this. You know who I spoke to today? Not today, so pardon me, yesterday, on the phone, in person, sort of. I spoke to my niece, Aaliyah, the daughter of Satsu. And she is such a sweetie. Satsu's like, Aaliyah, say hi to Scribe. And she's like, hi, Scribe. And I mean, I can't recreate it. Just imagine the most like heart-meltingly cute little voice coming over the phone saying hi. It just, But it also reminded me, now Satsu recently had to move, and so his operation was shut down for a while during the course of the move, but he's back up and running again, so let me tell you about that. This is my friend Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone, founder, owner, and CEO of Oishi Fried Chicken LLC, featuring a new line of signature spice mixes. Chef Tyrone's homemade blends are the perfect gateway to delicious fried chicken or any other protein you might prefer. These recipes were painstakingly tested in Tyrone's home kitchen to bring you all the fantastic flavors you and your family can enjoy. The current flavor lineup includes original, spicy, lemon garlic herb, barbecue rub, and taco seasoning. You can buy individual packs of your favorite flavors or save some money with a variety bundle, all through the online store. And Oishi Fried Chicken ships nationwide. Go to www.oishifc.com and order today. Yeah, so there you go, guys. Go check out Oishi Fried Chicken and order some spices. Order Satsu spices. Let's see. There was a question in the chat. Oh, I think Keeverdam already answered it. How old is she now? Well, Aaliyah is currently 5, will be 6. Luke Skywalker 2. Good afternoon. And AD equals Advocatus Diaboli. Oh, well, it reminded me to do something I told Satsu I would do. Ranting Monkey. Ezra has some good points lately, but not great, but okay points about the Dems. It all depends. I watched one he did where he talked about why did Trump win or the Democrats fail not too long ago. But I watched a little bit of this yesterday, and let's just get on with it.
Jake Tapper, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much, and congrats on all the success of this.
Thank you. I want to start a bit in the middle.
A bit in the middle? Malcolm in the middle? Yeah, I got nothing. I have to pause occasionally.
Okay.
You tell the story of Special Prosecutor Robert Hur's interviews with Biden in a lot more detail than I'd heard it before.
Yep.
And I think people know that report comes out and the prosecutor calls Biden a sort of well-meaning old man with a flagging memory.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And how is this treated by the media? I should say the left-wing media. And this is something else I really should, and I'm guilty of it as well, just because it's reflexive. So often lately, talking about the Biden cover-up, it'll be quoted that the media assisted in this. And here's the thing. Elements of the media did. A lot of media did not. Both right-wing or right-leaning outlets and individuals had been questioning Biden's abilities since at least 2019. And even if you don't want to talk about leaning media, quote-unquote new media on YouTube has been pointing these things out for years. Obvious problems with the guy. And yet everybody's pretending like, we just realized it. We didn't realize how bad it was until the debate. Which is absolute nonsense. Every time I hear somebody talking about, the problems really didn't begin until 2023. I'm like, okay. Let's see how. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself because when I watched it this morning, I was just absolutely beside myself by some of the things they were talking about.
Which is nice, by the way. It's a nice description. That's not a mean description. It's an accurate, nice description. He could have been.
Well, at the moment, it was taken as a very mean description.
It was.
Yes, and who was pushing that as a mean description or some kind of politically motivated description?
Yeah.
So what was going on behind that description?
Well, I think for Robert Hur and the prosecutors, they were legitimately flabbergasted by how President Biden appeared.
You think? Okay, now that we have the audio, if the transcript wasn't enough for you, and the descriptions and conclusions by Robert Hur in the first place wasn't enough, now that you have the audio recordings to actually get a sense of the pauses and the stumbling and the muttering, you think? Okay.
In that deposition, in the interview in October 2023, they were stunned. And I think they legitimately debated how he would appear to a jury.
Well, obviously so, because we already know what the conclusion was. He gave us his conclusion that he was not going to prosecute because he felt that a jury would just see a old man who was not in grasp of all of his faculties. I love how this is one of the first things that kind of bugged me. Like Jake Tapper, just like with his book, is talking retrospectively about things that were obvious or made plain in the past, but referring to them as though they were some kind of sudden revelation. It is so frustrating to me to listen to stuff like this. It insults my intelligence. This isn't the worst of what he's both done in his book and elsewise in other interviews, but it really started to irritate me as I watched this morning.
That I think they legitimately thought, if there's even one person that sees him the way that we see him, which is addled, we're not going to be able to get a conviction. I mean,
what was happening in those conversations that he seemed so addled?
But what was happening? The report was made public years ago. What was happening? Like Ezra Klein's talking to him like Jake Tapper has some like inside information that nobody got because of his reporting or something.
Well, if you read the transcript,
Ranting Monkey, this was recorded last. There was a preamble before this that was. It said that this was recorded before the cancer diagnosis became public. So like a couple of days before that happened is when this was recorded.
Of her interview, he is just meandering, unable to focus on the train of thought. He doesn't know dates. He's asked about a period that's significant for the investigation about, his holding and sharing information that is of a classified nature.
Sorry, and again, sometimes I don't have anything to say. It's just a matter of I have to stop.
So 2017, 2018. And first of all, he thinks that it is around that time that Bo died and that Bo was deployed.
Again, this was all in the transcript from 2 or 3 years ago now.
And it's not. Bo died in 2015. And Bo had been deployed years before that.
Uh-huh. I kept waiting for Jake Tapper to tell me something we didn't already know as part of public disclosure.
And then second of all, he's just unable to place events.
And Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why did I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay.
You have to be reminded when you left office. Huh.
But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right. Correct.
Okay, yeah.
It's beyond just an avuncular, charming Irish Paul sharing anecdotes.
It's beyond a stutter, you might say, right, Jake Tapper?
It's a meandering old man.
Uh-huh.
And in 2017, Bo had passed, and this is personal.
This is personal.
The genesis of the book and the title, Promise Me Dad, was I know you're all close with your sons and daughters, but Bo was like my right arm, and that was my left.
Uh-huh. Sorry, again, I have to pause.
These guys were a year and a day apart, and they could finish each other's sentences. And Bo, I used to go home on the train in the period that I was still in the Senate.
Does anybody remember what question he was asked in the first place at this point? But again, the transcript of this was available a couple of years ago now, or a year ago. None of this is new. I mean, the recordings galvanize it, but it's obvious from the transcript that he is all over the place. He's bringing up things that have absolutely nothing to do with the questions he's being asked, forgets dates, forgets years of time, forgets when things happened, when he was vice president, when he wasn't. So I'm struggling to understand why they're talking about this in a context where it's some kind of surprise.
Anyway.
And while he got assailed, Robert Hur, as a partisan hack out to destroy Biden.
And did CNN play? I'm just asking. Did CNN play any role in categorizing Hur's assessment of Biden as politically motivated by any chance? Is Jake Tapper, now and previous anchor for CNN, going to say anything about that?
My conclusion, and the conclusion of Attorney General Merrick Garland, by the way, was far from that.
My read of how people reacted to that document was it was a suspicion that Hur was trying to find a middle path. That
Hur was trying to find a middle path.
That he didn't want to prosecute the president, and so he sort of dinged him on memory so the right could feel good about that. I think people understood that as a political document.
That's not how I remember it, at least from most of the mainstream. For what I remembered from most of the mainstream press was that Robert Hur, a registered Republican, had decided to interpret Biden's behavior and answers to questions as him being mentally incompetent in order to come to that conclusion and try to spike Biden's prospects for a secondary Trump term so that Robert Hur would have the opportunity to be elevated to a federal judge. That's what I remember being broadcast left, right, and well, maybe not right, but left and center in a lot of places at that time. But okay.
When you read those transcripts, though, and you produce some of them in the book, the sense that the president of the United States is actually appearing too forgetful to be convicted of a crime that requires intent
Yeah.
in front of a jury
Yeah.
is a much more extraordinary and damning thing. And in retrospect, it makes the reaction to the Her report look much too modest, because I think people assumed it wasn't quite on the level.
You think people assumed? Okay, and again, this is this morning when I was listening to this that I started to get heated. They keep soft walking what actually happened, not only from their own outlets, but from the media and the political sphere writ large about this. They're going to get to it eventually as well, but I'm just going to talk about it right now. There has been this line that I've heard over the last couple of weeks that Biden really didn't start showing any problems until 2023. Like, nobody could have known just how bad it was until 2023. And I'm like, that is absolute and total nonsense. People were noticing problems as early as 2019 when he was on the campaign trail. Okay, it's not like a light switch went off on January 1st, 2023, and suddenly Biden became mentally deficient. But you know what? Hey, tell you what. For the sake of argument, let's say I'll stipulate. Okay, from the beginning of his tenure on January 20th, 2021, through December 31st, 2022, he was absolutely sharp as a tack. He was perfect in absolutely every way, right? Mary Poppins would get out her tape measure and she'd be right on the money. Okay, fine. Let's say a light switch was flipped on January 1st, 2023, and all of a sudden, Biden became mentally compromised. Let's just say that's the case. That means that for half of Biden's presidency, every single thing he did is now under question for whether or not it was done by him, whether it was done competently, or whether someone was acting in his stead in an effective coup of the presidency. And I only make that point because I've heard this, really, problems didn't really seem to start until 2023, as though that makes it okay or better in some way, or softens the constitutional crisis that implies. But I am a little bit on a tangent now. Also, I have to say, the pepper jack is really starting to hit me now. So if I start bumbling, I swear it's not because I've been mentally compromised, except in the sense of pepper jack. Let's see. Ranting Monkey. Wait, Tapper's timeline says it was mid-2023. Well, the Her, as far as I understand it, someone please correct me. The Her HUR interview took place in late 2023. Isn't that correct? Am I? Ranting Monkey, your point still stands, but it was shorter. It's all nonsense. So, yeah, okay. But I keep, and I'm not talking about the specific interview, but I've heard other people just sort of in the abstract say problems weren't detected until 2023. And they say it so nebulously, I just kind of say, okay, well, hell, let's just start at this, January 1st. Well, hell, let's say it was October 31st, 2023. Either way, you've got a significant period of time where you have the President of the United States knowingly and obviously and demonstrably mentally compromised. How many decisions did Joe Biden, I should say, how many decisions were attributed to the President of the United States between November of 2023 through the end of 2024? How many things were signed purportedly by Joe Biden between the end of the beginning of November 2023 through the end of 2024? None of it makes it any better. Even if you shorten the timeline of the detection of his problem to a year and a half or so or less, you're still talking about a guy in the Oval Office who shouldn't be there. Obviously should not be there. Andy Messon, funny, I saw a problem in 1988. Well, there's that too. Joe Biden seemed to have a lot of problems remembering his own credentials and curriculum vitae. Ranting Monkey, exactly. The it didn't happen until 2023 is not the win they think it is, even though it is a crap that started in 20. Yeah. It's nonsense that it quote unquote started in 2023, but that's what I keep hearing. It's like, oh, nobody could have known. There wasn't any evidence of this until the Hur report happened. BS. Anyway.
I think it was on the level. The pushback was interesting because the pushback was not about, well, there was the White House pushback.
The White House pushback. Of course the White House had pushback. Because it was demonstrating that the guy at the top, the guy that everybody was drawing their power from in their careers, shouldn't be in the office.
Which was not about, hey, the president broke the law.
Yeah, no, I'm sure the White House would not be pushing back by saying, hey, the president broke the law.
Which is how people, by the way, how prosecutors at DOJ thought it was going to be received. They thought the White House is going to be, oh crap, the president broke the law.
Yeah, I'm sure that was their major concern.
But the pushback was not on that, but that he was old.
You don't say.
Which I think is the tell from the White House. And the White House went to war not just against Robert Hur, they went to war against their own Attorney General, Merrick Garland.
Yeah, and did that not, I don't know, did that not cause any curiosity on the part of, I'm just going to go with CNN, because Jake Tapper, for everything else, he represents CNN. He's not just an independent actor here. He's not some freelance journalist, Peter Parker with a camera. No, he is CNN, born and bred. And so every time he talks about what was happening at the White House or the reaction from the White House, I just ask myself, doesn't that at least perk up your curiosity ears in a journalistic sense? Golly, why is the White House fighting with the DOJ over this? Given the transcript, isn't there something here for the DOJ to be concerned about? Not only on the terms of the law being broken, but perhaps on a constitutional basis that the president is not able to fulfill the duties of his office?
And Garland comes to the conclusion, and this is in our book, that ultimately Biden, even though he brought him on board saying he wanted a fair, just attorney general and a Justice Department that had no fear or favor for anyone, Garland ultimately came to the conclusion that's not what he wanted.
So, and I am asking rhetorically because I don't know. I don't have a full accounting of this. How much reporting did CNN do on underlining the fact that Merrick Garland looked past the potential legal violations that Biden committed, but as well, the obvious compromise to his mental faculties?
It's not what Biden wanted. Biden did not want an independent Justice Department.
So Biden lied as well? Okay.
Wanted one that would protect him and his son.
So I have this weird experience with this, which I happen to be at the White House on the day the Hur report comes out.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And I'm there doing a bunch of other reporting.
Yeah. And I'm mentally putting quotation marks around reporting.
Well, one of the things I'm there working on is a story that in my head at that moment is titled, "Is Joe Biden up to this?"
Is Joe Biden up to this? Now, okay, I need to remind myself, when was the Hur report released? I need to have a better timeline in my head here. February of 2024. Is that correct? Yeah, Hur's report was released on February 8th, 2024. Okay, so this is just into the beginning of 2024. Ezra Klein is at the White House on February 8th, 2024. And his article, potentially titled, Is Joe Biden up to this? After the previous 3-some-odd years and a campaign of Joe Biden constantly and consistently bumbling his way through interviews, hiding from the press, mixing up names, obviously wandering off, forgetting where he is, who he's talking about, Ezra Klein's amazing and brave title of his article is, going into the 2024 presidential season, or presidential campaign, Is Joe Biden up to this? Oh my gosh. How brave. I mean, how milquetoast.
Because he'd been doing basically no interviews. Not really doing press conferences.
Yeah, gosh, that had been doing that kind of pattern for how long again? Up till February of 2024?
We had no real evidence that he was capable of the rigors of campaigning at that point.
Well, you had plenty of evidence he was not capable of the rigors of campaigning to that point. Might I suggest the previous 3.5 years or so?
And then they decided not to do the Super Bowl interview.
Yeah.
Which for me was some kind of very big tell. Like that was a moment when I really shifted.
Not doing the Super Bowl interview, guys, in 2024 was when Ezra Klein shifted. Well, I mean, better late than never, I suppose.
You have a different explanation than they ever gave me
Yeah.
on why they didn't do the Super Bowl interview.
Oh, what explanation did they give you, and did you believe it out of hand, I wonder?
Why?
Well, first of all, laid across all of this is the fact that he's not capable of doing good interviews as of 2023.
Okay, and that was it. He's not capable of doing good interviews as of 2023. Right, only because the Her interview took place in 2023, and that's when the transcript was cited for by the time it came public in early 2024. And so on February 8th, 2024, you knew, everybody knew, that Biden was completely off his rocker, at least as of late 2023. And obviously, only at the time of the interview did Joe Biden suddenly lose his capabilities. But okay.
Period.
Right. They don't do the Super Bowl interview the year before either.
Well,
they blame that on it being Fox.
Right.
But
And you guys believed that. They blamed it on it being Fox. That was enough for you? Okay.
they don't do it.
They told me actually it's because they knew the Her report was about to drop.
Okay. So again, let's think about this for a second. Now, here's the ambiguous part, and I'm not sure if he clarifies this. Is Jake Tapper talking about something that he heard in the course of writing his book? Or is this something that he heard at the time?
And they knew it would have all this stuff about classified information and about him seeming super old behind the scenes.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that this is information he learned in the course of writing his book. This is not information that he possessed back in February, thereabouts, of 2024. But still, the fact that these two events coincided with one another, that wasn't enough to ask some more questions at the time?
And addled behind the scenes, and they didn't want to have a interview on that, no matter with whom and no matter what the format was going to be. They did.
And again, did you, Jake Tapper, or did CNN writ large do anything about that? Do any investigating on that? Questioning, speculating?
Didn't want 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes about what it would have been. Oh my God, this Her report says that you're not up to the task.
Not up to the task. Not up to the task of what? Running for president again, or being president at that moment?
The Her interview comes out. Biden seems himself authentically furious. And they call a press conference. It happens late that night. I remember being in my hotel room after being at the White House all day watching this press conference.
In addition, I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events.
Uh-huh. Read the teleprompter, Joe.
There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died.
Uh-huh. Well, the transcript was pretty clear, Joe.
How in the hell dare he raise that?
How in the hell did he dare raise that? Sorry. Who raised the subject of Beau Biden in that interview?
Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business.
What question were you asked, Joe Biden, that led to you talking about your son?
Biden attacks her. He is angry about the allegation that he didn't remember when Beau died.
For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about.
That's an interesting thing for Joe Biden to say in this context.
It has no place in this report.
Well, who put it there, Joe?
Bottom line is the matter is now closed. I'm going to continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America.
Have you really been the President of the United States of America, Joe?
And then at the end, he takes some questions.
Yeah, which I remember I watched that live. I remember watching that live. And you want to talk about cringe.
Yeah.
And in this interview meant to reassure people about his memory, he mixes up Egypt and Mexico.
Yeah.
As you know, initially, the President of Mexico, Sisi,
The President of Mexico, Sisi. Yeah, not Obrador. Yeah, not Obrador. No, Sisi. Ranting Monkey. No one in the press called Biden on Biden saying her brought it up, even though the report was out there to read. Exactly. It's like the her report was just obviously right-wing propaganda. It was just made up. Yeah, I've heard this word used so many times over the last several years in looking at DEI stuff or Black Lives Matter. The word complicit. It's been so overused in situations where it does not make sense. Like simply by existing, white people are complicit with white supremacy and so on. The media, the left-wing progressive media in particular, was complicit in trying to soft walk and sugarcoat a situation where we know, if it was ever a guess or speculation before, we know now that a coup took place sometime between January 20th, 2021 and I'll grant them at least the October whatever 2023 when her interview took place. People that were running this country who were not elected, who were not supposed to be president, acting on behalf and making decisions for the president outside of constitutional rules. We know this. It's not a question. And this is the thing that really, I know it's not been a non-issue, but I haven't heard so much about, golly gee whiz, was this country being run by a committee beyond the elected president of the United States for the previous 4 years? That should be asked more. There's this, I was never much of a viewer of the West Wing back in the day, but for various reasons, YouTube keeps recommending clips of the West Wing to me. There is this clip where Ramon Estevez, Martin Sheen, his character, President Bartlett, is there with his chief of staff and Toby Ziegler. The character Toby Ziegler, I think played by Adam Schiff or whatever. Anyway, there was a storyline where the president was incapacitated. And the vice president was off in the field somewhere, and there were some decisions being made in the Situation Room. And Toby Ziegler points out to the president, who was running the country for that time when you were incapacitated and the vice president was off over here? And he's like, I'm pretty sure it was Leo, the chief of staff, and I'm pretty sure he's not the elected president of the United States. And so for the time that you were out, before reasonable succession could be established, that there was a coup in this country. And President Bartlett's getting all frustrated at Toby actually doling facts to the guy. That and not having a plan for this and so on and so forth, that effectively his presidency was hijacked by the needs of the moment. But now just imagine that going on. And again, I'll extend the benefit of the doubt. Late 2023 throughout the entirety of 2024, someone else was running this country. Or someone's else. Anyway.
Did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him.
You talked to Sisi, the president of Mexico?
I convinced him to open the gate.
The gate to Mexico?
For me, like, that was the moment when I realized, okay, it went from the question mark, like, can he do this, to he can't.
That was the moment. In early 2024, that was the moment that Ezra Klein, journalist supreme, suddenly realized he can't. Now, did this revelation cause Ezra Klein to wonder, well, golly, if he can't run for president, maybe he shouldn't be president? Does that come up, you think?
Right? If you can't go out and not have a memory flub in the press conference about your memory, you're in real trouble.
Uh-huh.
And I would note that what Biden said in that press conference was not true.
Oh my gosh, it was not true. Okay, and again, I have to say that I don't know whether this is what the situation was at the time, because I have not done a extensive research on Jake Tapper's comments at the time. Did Jake Tapper point that out at the time?
To hear Biden tell it, Robert Hur says, do you remember what year Bo died? But that's not what happened. Biden brought up Bo.
Yes, and everybody knew that back in February of 2024, as Ranting Monkey said, with the transcript. I wonder, is Jake Tapper going to say, and I said so on my broadcast?
Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working?
The question was, where did you keep papers that were related to things that you were actively working? That was the question asked of Joe Biden. Where did you keep papers?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying.
In 2017 or 2018, you got to remember, my son has either been deployed or is dying. I mean, these are two vastly different situations. And Biden was asked, where did he keep the papers?
And look, I can't imagine the grief he feels about Bo or his first wife and daughter. And that's also one of the subtexts of this book, obviously, or text in this book, is that the two main areas where we think, according to top aides, that his diminishment happened the most had to do with times of extreme stress for Hunter in the summer of 2023 when the plea deal fell apart, and then the summer of 2024 when he was convicted of a crime in a Delaware jury.
Okay. Now, this is where I got actively angry listening to this. There is no denying, and I want to make that very clear, there is no denying that what happened to Biden's wife and child and to his son Bo are, independently and of their own meaning, complete tragedies. Okay? There's no denying that. And I'm not meaning to characterize them as anything less than absolute tragedies. Now, that being said, all of those things happened before Joe Biden ran for president in 2019, 2020. Okay. He cites the death of his son, Bo, and something Bo said to him before he died as his motivation for running for president. I'm sure, I'm not hopeful, but I'm sure that many of you in the audience have experienced the loss of a loved one or a tragedy in your life that was overwhelming. Okay. I have, you have, some of us to greater degrees than others, either way. I can think of a couple of instances where I've had losses in the family, major heartbreaks of one form or another that didn't involve a death but was still traumatic. We've all had them. But here's the thing. I still got up and went to work the next day. I still had responsibilities and obligations that operated outside of my personal troubles. Now, save for taking a day maybe if a loved one died or I had to do something or elsewise. But eventually, in short order, I had to get back to my life and I had to get back to my responsibilities. My personal life, unless I decided to quit my job or something for some reason, does not suddenly excuse me from the responsibilities I took on in my other obligations in life. Joe Biden took an oath to fulfill the duties of the President of the United States of America. His personal life, at that point, in my mind, barring an absolutely undeniable tragedy elsewise, and if there was such a tragedy that would make him so out of sorts as incapable of fulfilling the duties of his office, that's a whole other thing. At that point, you're saying, I can put my personal foibles, my personal tragedies, my personal traumas aside and fulfill this responsibility that I am accepting. Because the presidency is something that exists and operates beyond your personal life. You have a duty and a responsibility outside of yourself when you take on the mantle of President of the United States. So for Tapper and Ezra Klein here to dwell on tragedies that occurred in Biden's life, in one case, decades previous to his becoming the president, and in the second case, a motivation for him to become president, to me is still extending get out of jail free cards to both Biden and the people around him for what they did and the crimes that they have committed. And as far as Hunter is concerned, holy cats, Hunter Biden is a grown adult, at least chronologically, if not mentally, and his sins are his own to bear. And Joe Biden being distraught over the fate of his son, Hunter, that is not our problem as a country. That should not become our problem as a country when it comes to wondering about the faculties or attention of the President of the United States. If he is so distracted and distraught over the current situation of his son, who put himself in that situation of his own volition and choices, that he cannot operate as president, then maybe he shouldn't be. But of course, that is the fault in the 25th Amendment, where it leaves up to those individuals who are already beholden to the executive to make the decision to remove the executive. But that's a whole other conversation.
Because in Joe Biden's brain,
what was left of it,
understandably, he thought there was a very real fear he was going to lose a third child.
Well, again, so as we proceed here, as Jake Tapper is saying this, is he just trying to explain Biden's mentality on this, or is he trying to excuse it?
That Hunter was going to either overdose or commit suicide.
Oh, is that what his concern was? Oh, okay.
And I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm not saying...
Are you sure about that, Jake Tapper? Because it sure sounds like it. Okay, well, if it's not an excuse, Jake Tapper, then what is it?
That lightly, but I'm just saying this is part of what happened.
Uh-huh.
That stress helped really deteriorate his essence.
That stress helped deteriorate his essence. Well, you know what? Let's say I again stipulate to we couldn't have known, and Jake Tapper still seems to be speculating. We couldn't have known what was causing Joe Biden's stress. But we did know, at least as of early February 2024, that he was not all there. Regardless of the cause, which was probably old age, Well, we know it's old age. But Hunter's potential fate. Oh my gosh.
I think those parts of the books are really persuasive and sad.
Persuasive and sad.
The reason I wanted to focus on this her week is that, to me, it's a moment when a lot of things burst out into the open.
Remember, guys, it was only as of the her week that things burst out in the open. There was nothing to cause anyone any concern prior to the release of the her report. Yeah, from February 8th, 2024, all the way back through to 2019 when Biden first started really campaigning for president, there was nothing. There was nothing to cause any concern. No. Yeah, he had some gaffes. It was his stutter. These two individuals proclaimed themselves to be professional journalists, everyone. But it really wasn't until, we had the her report that suddenly burst the damn gate, the damn wide open. Oh yeah. Only then.
For me, after that press conference, I write this series of pieces arguing that Biden should step aside or be convinced not to run. There should be an open convention.
You didn't ask me to toot your horn, but let me just say that was very gutsy and very difficult for you to do.
Why? Okay. What is the purpose of the Fourth Estate? I should say, what is the presumed purpose of the Fourth Estate? To hold truth to power, to be the skeptical eye on behalf of the public towards those who would be in power over the public. But it was really gutsy and risky of you to question whether Joe Biden was up to this. That should be part and parcel with your purpose, should it not? Oh, journalism gods over here. Give me a break.
And I applauded you then, and I applaud you now because.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow. Gosh, accepting credit with faint praise.
Because, first of all, probably a lot of people who are fans of yours didn't want to hear it.
Oh my God.
And also, it's kind of lonely to be saying things like that.
It's kind of lonely to be saying things like that. Now here's me speculating. But this sounds to me like an artifact of the access media philosophy. Right? If Ezra Klein says even the most mild, makes even the most timid doubt about Joe Biden's capabilities going into the 2024 election season, this is brave, gutsy, ballsy. He's taking a lot of risks. He might anger some people by asking an absolutely meek question. Because what happens? Oh, well, maybe the Democrats will blacklist him. Maybe they won't talk to him anymore. Maybe he won't be having be invited to the right parties anymore. Maybe he won't be able to get on background the kind of people he got before. Maybe he'll actually have to work to get his information now instead of having it spoon-fed him by people that have been lying for the previous 4 years. I know, it's crazy.
Well, I appreciate that, but
oh yeah.
The thing I want to get at here, because you have more information on this than I do.
Why does he have more information on this than you do? Why? Because you actively and willfully lacked curiosity during the entirety of the past administration, up until, apparently, February of 2024.
As you can imagine, when I write these pieces, I get a lot of incoming from Biden world.
Yeah.
You got a lot of incoming from Biden world. Uh-huh.
And they're not happy about it.
Oh, they're not happy about it. Well, shouldn't that, again, pique your journalistic curiosity?
And my honest assessment of them, my view of how they think of this, is that they actually think I'm wrong.
Yeah.
They actually think you're wrong. They actually think you're wrong. Okay, so you don't think they're being deceptive. You think from their perspective they're being honest.
They think I'm being unfair.
Some of them do.
Okay, Jake Tapper, fine.
Some of them do. Certainly the ones I hear from.
Well, you guys have different sources from one another, I guess.
You're not telling me who you heard from, but I'll tell you that this disaster that happened with Joe Biden running for re-election and then the cover-up of what he was like behind the scenes.
Okay, again, Jake Tapper is bottlenecking the extent of this disaster to the 2024 election season. Now, I have to admit, I have not watched this entire thing, and I'm getting close to wrapping this section up of the stream. But and I'm gonna have to listen to all of it, so I can't say for certain. But even in this moment, when they're talking so focused on Joe Biden's capabilities, the fact that neither of them have even floated a notion about not just Biden's mentality for the presidential run in 2024, but in the previous 3 years, and questioning whether or not there was something going on and something wrong with this picture when you have a president who is so demonstrably compromised for everything that happened prior. COVID, Afghanistan, etc. It really does baffle me.
Robert Hershaw was orchestrated by Joe and Jill and Hunter and Mike Donnellan and Steve Ricchetti. And there are other people to a lesser extent, but
other people to a lesser extent. I'm sorry. Anyone who had active knowledge of Biden's capabilities or lack thereof that said nothing and were themselves either appointed to or elected to positions of power in our government, as far as I'm concerned, there's no lesser extent at that point. They had an obligation to report, as far as I'm concerned. Because again, everybody keeps operating as though they exist in this tiny little bubble where their actions and their responsibilities and their position have nothing to do with the rest of the world. If you're and I know I might be talking too idealistic here, and I am. I know I am. But if you take on the mantle of becoming a public servant, if you're being paid by the taxpayer to do something, again, your personal concerns and personal problems are at best secondary to your responsibilities for your job and to sticking to the Constitution you took an oath to. So again, Tapper is kind of giving people a pass on this. It's slight. It's mild. He names some people, and to a lesser extent, like the Vice President of the United States, perhaps. To anybody who presumably interacted with Biden on a regular basis during those 4 years.
those 5 people are the most responsible.
They're the most responsible? Okay, well, what do you think should happen to those most responsible?
Cover up. That's the word I want to get at here.
Yeah.
One thing throughout this whole period, and for years before it, which was always a bad sign, is like a lot of political reporters, I am asking people in the White House constantly, how's Joe Biden in meetings?
How's Joe Biden in meetings? I don't know. You're going to ask people attached to the Biden White House how Joe Biden is doing. Okay, did you take it at face value? Did you compare what they said to his public performance and say, wait a second?
How's he doing? And they all say,
fine,
to a person, the line you often hear is he can perform the presidency, but he can't, quote unquote, perform the presidency.
Right.
Okay. Did Ezra Klein hear that line during the course of the Biden presidency? Wouldn't that signal gigantic alarm bells to anyone with half a brain?
His communication skills have degraded, but as a decision maker, he's better than ever.
How do you... Jesus. He can't communicate very effectively, but his decision-making is obviously better than ever. Wait a second. Wait. I don't think I got this far in the talk this morning. So wait a second. You can't understand a word that he's saying, but I promise you that his decision-making powers are better than ever, everyone.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
And so what did Ezra Klein do with this information, I wonder?
And it keeps a lot of people from writing what's sort of in front of your face. You think, well,
No, Ezra Klein, no. Nothing kept you from writing it. Nothing. We go to Cooney from UHF. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Nothing kept you from writing it.
at least people are seeing things I'm not, right? If they tell me he's good in the meetings, I don't know if he's good in the meetings.
Oh, and I guess that's where journalistic curiosity just stops. Like, they told me something, I can't possibly corroborate it, so I guess there's nothing to say.
Right.
So when you say there's a cover-up,
When you say there's a cover-up, as I just admitted that I took the White House's line without question and didn't bother writing anything about the confusion, when you say there's a cover-up, Jake Tapper... Oh, Jesus.
my sense of these people is that this is what they believed, or at least had talked themselves into believing.
Okay, or at least, hey, Ezra. Let's say that they didn't talk themselves into it. Let's say you're not even going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're lying to themselves. What if they're just partisan hacks who are dependent on Joe Biden being the president for their own positions, power, and ambition? What about that, Ezra? What if they're lying to you because it's advantageous for them to lie to you? Good gravy. Also, Andy Masterson says, Biden is a jelly donut. Ich bin Biden Berliner. Yeah, I might know vaguely what Andy is referring to. Oh my God, how much more can I listen to? Okay, a quick straw poll. Who in the chat wants me to continue playing this? Because I only plan on playing like a few minutes, but now we're like 15 minutes into this thing. Do you want me to keep going, or should I move on to something else? If you want me to keep going, put a 1 in the chat. If you want me to move on to something else, put a 2. 1 to go ahead, 2 to move on. Let me know. Hoi, Columba. Mike R. says 1. Dr. Functional wants me to move on. This is painful, he says. Okay, again, there's no judgment here. I could go either way. I understand. Let's see. 2, this will repeat endlessly, says Advocatus. Do the whole thing. This is just what my day needed. This is 1, says 5. Okay, so I got a 1, I got a 1, I got a 2. I got a 2, I got a 2. Got a 2, got a 1. Oh my gosh, it's like we're right in the even space here. We got a 1. Uh-oh. Got a 1, got a 2. Uh-oh, each one of these cancels each other out. Got a 2. Okay, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna let them finish up their current thought or point or whatever, and then we're gonna move on.
Do you feel most people were seeing him in meetings and he came off the way he came off with Robert Hur and they're just not telling anybody?
I don't know, Ezra. What do you think?
Or is it something more psychologically complex going on here?
Is it something more psychologically complex going on here? Would either scenario alleviate the people involved from their responsibility for not saying something?
Both. Yes, they were lying to themselves. They were lying to others. But
well, if they were lying to others, then they were actively choosing to be deceptive, weren't they? It wasn't just some delusion they were experiencing, was it, Jake?
At all. Like the definition of a cover-up is when you are hiding something that is an ugly fact.
Yes, Jake. And you just confirmed that. If they were lying to others.
And the ugly fact is that the Joe Biden that we all saw at the debate on June 27th, 2024, did not just step out of nowhere.
Very good, Jake. Now, do you want to back up to October of 2023, where he was exhibiting that same kind of confusion? And do you want to make any guesses or conclusions about whether or not Joe Biden should have ever been in the office at all?
That was Joe Biden, and that was the logical consequence of what they had been hiding since, really, in a big way, since 2023.
Right, because prior to 2023, they hadn't been hiding anything. Okay, I'm going to stop watching this here. For those of you that want to watch the rest of this, you can find it on Ezra Klein's channel. The timestamp of where I have stopped is at 16 minutes and 57 seconds. The entire interview goes on for an hour and 20 minutes. So we got through about a sixth, if my math is correct, about a sixth of the whole podcast. So there you go. That's just a portion. And yeah, I was listening. I think I got through a little. I think I stopped just a little bit before that portion there this morning because I just couldn't take it. What they weren't saying about their own actions and their own outlets' actions and publications during the course of that time, how they were dodging the obvious question about Biden's fitness to even be the president. Again, even if you give them, it didn't really show up until late 2023. For a year and a half, it didn't nothing to be concerned about. That the presidency was being run by the president's family members, and especially, of all people, Hunter Biden? I'm going to have to watch the rest of that later on my own, on the off chance that they ever broach the subject of, golly gee whiz, was this country being run by a crack addict for the last 4 years? In part, some part we don't even know the extent of? Anyway, there's that. I got a couple more things I want to go over here before I wrap things up. Completely on a different topic. Just under the file of you can buy your way out of trouble still. The Justice Department reaches a deal to allow Boeing to avoid prosecution over 737 MAX crashes. Yeah, your product, your processes can lead to the multiple deaths and or injuries of people. But don't worry. You got enough money. Yeah, you can buy your way out of it. That's fine. The Justice Department has reached a deal with Boeing that will allow the airplane giant to avoid criminal prosecution for allegedly misleading U.S. regulators about their 737 MAX jetliner before two of the planes crashed and killed 346 people, according to court papers filed Friday. Under the agreement in principle, which still needs to be finalized, Boeing would pay or invest more than $1.1 billion, including an additional $445 million for the crash victims' families, the Justice Department said. In return, the department has agreed to dismiss the fraud charge against Boeing, allowing the manufacturer to avoid a possible criminal conviction that could have jeopardized the company's status as a federal contractor, according to experts. Oh no! Oh no, we must prevent Boeing from being prevented to be a federal contractor. How's that Air Force One rebuild going? Quote, ultimately, in applying the facts, the law, and department policy, we are confident that this resolution is the most just outcome with practical benefits. A Justice Department spokesperson said in a statement, practical benefits. How about actual justice for the deaths of 346 people that didn't need to die, save for Boeing's negligence? Oh, and practical benefits. What are the practical benefits that outweigh actually pursuing criminal prosecution, I wonder? Nothing will diminish the victim's losses. There should be a period at the end of that statement. Unfortunately, there's a comma. Nothing will diminish the victim's losses, but this resolution holds Boeing financially accountable, provides finality and compensation for the families, and makes an impact for the safety of future air travelers. Does it though? Does it though? Because if airline companies know that at the end of the day they can kill, by their own negligence and lack of oversight, 346 people and pay their way out of criminal consequence, does that really? I mean, it does make an impact for the safety of future air travel. I noticed that he didn't qualify that. He didn't say it was a positive impact. Boeing on Friday declined to comment. Well, really, what's left to say? You paid the families, which is the least they are owed in what can be provided on the temporal plane as far as justice. Oh, except for, some actual justice. Some relatives of the passengers who died in the crashes, which took place off the coast of Indonesia and Ethiopia less than 5 months apart in 2018 and 2019, have been pushing for a public trial, the prosecution of former company officials, and more severe financial punishment for Boeing. The Justice Department noted that the victims' families had mixed views on the proposed deal. Well, I mean, if 99 out of 100 family members said, prosecute these guys into the dirt, and one family member said, well, I'm not so sure, I guess that would be mixed views. Quote, this kind of non-prosecution deal is unprecedented and obviously wrong for the deadliest corporate crime in U.S. history, said Paul Castle, an attorney for many of the families in the long-running case. Quote, my families will object and hope to convince the court to reject it, unquote. And pop-up from AP. Javier de Luis, whose sister Graziella died in the Ethiopia crash, said the Justice Department is walking away, quote, from any pretense to seek justice for the victims of the 737 MAX crashes. Quote, the message sent by this action to companies around the country is, don't worry about making your products safe for your customers. Even if you kill them, just pay a small fine and move on, unquote. Boeing was accused of misleading the Federal Aviation Administration about aspects of the MAX before the agency certified the plane for flight. Well, that only as well calls into question the Federal Aviation Administration and their certification process. But let's move on from that. Boeing did not tell airlines and pilots about a new software system called MCAS that could turn the plane's nose down without input from its pilots if a sensor detected that the plane might go into an aerodynamic stall. The MAX planes crashed after a faulty reading from the sensor pushed the nose down and pilots were unable to regain control. After the second crash, MAX jets were grounded worldwide until the company redesigned MCAS to make it less powerful and to use signals from two sensors, not just one. The Justice Department charged Boeing in 2021 with deceiving FAA regulators about the software, which did not exist in older 737s, and about how much training pilots would need to fly the plane safely. The department agreed not to prosecute Boeing at the time. However, if the company paid a $2.5 billion settlement, including the $243.6 million fine, and took steps to comply with anti-fraud laws for 3 years. I mean, never mind them not complying with anti-fraud laws prior to this, as long as you promise not to do it again for 3 years, not in perpetuity because they are anti-fraud laws on the books. Just don't get caught breaking them again for 3 years. Federal prosecutors, however, last year said Boeing violated the terms of the 2021 agreement by failing to make promised changes to detect and prevent violations of federal anti-fraud laws. Okay, so they violated the terms of the agreement, so now you're going to criminally prosecute them, right? Right? No, Boeing agreed last July to plead guilty to the felony fraud charge instead of enduring a potentially lengthy public trial. But in December, U.S. District Court Judge Reed O'Connor. We're hearing a lot about U.S. District Court judges lately, aren't we? We are. In Fort Worth. What does Fort Worth, Texas have to do with a company that is headquartered in what? Washington State? And crimes that took place in Indonesia and Ethiopia? I don't know. The judge said the diversity, inclusion, and equity, or DEI policies in the government and at Boeing could result in race being a factor in picking a monitor to oversee Boeing's compliance with the agreement. Let me read that again. But in December, U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor in Fort Worth rejected the plea deal. The judge said the diversity, inclusion, and equity, or DEI policies in the government and at Boeing could result in race being a factor in picking a monitor to oversee Boeing's compliance with the agreement. What? Okay, now, those of you in the audience know I'm no fan of DEI policies. And especially DEI policies in government and business and elsewise. Why does that let Boeing off the hook criminally? The plea deal had called for an independent monitor to be named to oversee Boeing's safety and quality procedures for 3 years. Under the agreement announced Friday, Boeing must retain an, quote, independent compliance consultant who will make recommendations for, quote, further improvement and report back to the government according to court. Okay. As I've stated previously, I have an English major, an English degree. I do not have a law degree. How does a DEI initiative or program in the government allow Boeing not to have to face criminal charges and instead lead to a payoff? And I'm being sincere, I do not understand the logic of that. So if someone in the chat or later on in the comments can advise me as to why the possibility of a DEI initiative being present in the federal government allows Boeing to avoid being charged or prosecuted criminally and just have to pay what amounts to a fine, I would love to know. I would love to know. So there's that. One more thing. An event took place about, I guess it was 4 days ago. And the only reason I bring it up is because geographically, it is close to a place that I have profiled previously on my channel. Veterans of my channel may recall something called the Boom Experience. Anybody old enough to remember this one? Okay, well, in summary, in the and even up to this year, it happened. In fact, I think I still have the registration document or something. I have the brochure here. Let me pull that up real quick. Hold on. Yeah, where is that open file location? So, yeah, this is something that's been going on for at least 10 years now. Let me present this. Okay, so your journey, your story. Breaking out of the margins, the Boom Experience. This happened on April 3rd at Bellevue College. Now, so Bellevue, Washington is a city and a school district in Washington State. And for the last 10 years or so, they have held this event every year called the Boom Experience. I mean, they might have turned it off for the sake of the lockdown that 1 year or two. But either way, the Boom Experience was originally a sort of, I don't know, a conference for students from a public school district making use of the facilities at a community college. So both of these entities are recipients of federal financial assistance, and these events, at the time that I profiled it back in 2016, 2017, were explicitly for Black, Latinx, and Native American male students. So not only were they violating Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 by making it about race and having exclusive events, programs, and activities based on race. But they were also violating Title IX by making it a gendered thing as well. And they've been holding this event, like I say, for the last 10 years. And so, yeah, the Boom Experience 2025, this already happened. Yeah, here's our presenter, Angelica Maria Gonzalez Graham. And we have to point out her race. She's Black, Mexican, and Indigenous. Oh my gosh, a trifecta. Anyway, these events, and I still believe this to this day, because of my inquiries at the time, at least for the sake of the 2016 or 2017 event, whichever it was, they changed their brochure, and I profiled this on a video on my channel. You can go back on my playlists and find the playlist called Down the Rabbit Hole. Or the Temple of Boom might be the other one. Anyway, they changed their brochure to have a parenthetical after the whole race and gender thing, saying, oh, well, even though this event is geared towards these demographics, it's open to all students. Yeah, they made that thing because otherwise they would be breaking the law. Well, they still held this thing every year. Anyway, in a town not too far away from the Bellevue School District, in a place I've heard it said before, and I'm probably going to screw it up, Issaquah, something like that. Anyway, just 4 days ago, they held an event at their public school district, or sponsored by their public school district, called Black and Brown Excellence 2025. Amplify, empower, lead, celebrate, shine, affirm, uplift. Issaquah School District. Again, this is a public school district recipient of federal financial assistance. And what have we said before about this? Oh, that's right. Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VI. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. And what did this little presentation entail? Well, we had keynote speakers. We have a Aaron Reeder. Aaron Reeder is a storyteller at heart, whether he's behind the mic, on stage, or in a boardroom. As the Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Access at Seattle Theater Group, a nationally recognized motivational speaker, spoken word artist, actor, and now host of the podcast from... Okay. We have a second keynote speaker, Michael Tuncap, I guess. We have Aaron Jones, who is a biracial, transracial adoptee who was born in St. Paul, Minnesota. We have Roxana Pardo Garcia. Roxana Pardo Garcia, a.k.a. La Roxay, is a self-identifying hood intellectual Zingona. And what workshop is she hosting? Brown and Down. Brown and Down is an introductory workshop to PNW Latinx history. We go through the words that are used to identify the Latinx community, the history of how Latinx got to the Northwest, the Chicano movement in Washington State and the country, and how we have historically worked with other communities of color towards our collective liberation. Remember, this is an event for a public school district that runs K through 12. Let's see, we have Jamie Justin Uluwar Otimi Schulter. I apologize for not pronouncing it correctly. Workshop title and summary: From Recruitment to Real Life, Understanding the NCAA and Beyond. Help student athletes and supporters understand the path to competing in the NCAA. Okay, and again, this is a Black and Brown Excellence event, so who's not invited? Youth East Side Services. Workshop title and summary: Know Your Rights. Okay, before I even read this, is this going to be about immigration? Join us to learn and practice verbalizing the key statements to assert your rights. We aim to transform fear and hate against immigrant and refugee and LGBTQIA plus communities into courage and action. In this workshop, you will learn how to invoke the Fourth and Fifth Amendment to help yourself, friends, family, and neighbors against unlawful arrests by ICE agents and about current efforts to create safe communities. Ay, caramba. Let's see. Workshop title and summary, leading with purpose and compassion. Oh, and Michael Tuncap makes another appearance. Workshop title and summary, Erase the Hate. We were talking earlier about literacy in schools. Making mocha mixtapes and ciphers for self-defense. Okay, what does mocha mean? Does it translate that? It doesn't. MOCA, mocha mixtapes. I can only guess. We have the Urban Market workshop title and summary. Graffiti art name design. Students will gather in studio to draw/paint their own names graffiti art style. Yeah, because what the world needs more of, guys, is graffiti. Students will walk away with original pieces, quote unquote, of their names that they will fill in and develop. Historically speaking, these pieces are worth their weight in gold, as these artifacts are true original works of art designed in collaboration with the artist and students. Sure. And there you go. That was the Black and Brown Excellence 2025 itinerary at the Issaquah School District, Public School District in Washington State, held, as far as I understand it, on the 20th of May, so about 4 days ago. Never mind Title VI. Never mind how this exclusively and explicitly excludes people on the basis of their race. Yeah, it's okay. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. We talked earlier, I think last time, an article where they talked about looking up the 9 most egregious entities in the country that had possibly violated civil rights law. They were looking to make a list of and a target list for. That was supposed to be finalized, I believe, on and around the 20th of this month. I don't know that that's been released publicly. I would love to know, is the Issaquah School District on that list? Ms. J. Scribler, can you post the article link in the chat? Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Here is, in the chat, this is the link to that, what do you want to call it? PowerPoint presentation. Mr. Yes, I can. Let's see. Data Wasteland. More of colored artists. Is that what that means? Mocha? Is that actually what it means? Oh, you guys are talking to each other. Let's see. That is not a link, is it not? Okay, sorry. Oh, that's the link that I had. Hold on. Okay, there we go. If you copy and paste that into a browser, that'll still work, but let me get you the actual resulting link. No, I don't want that. I want the actual link. I'm copying the link. There we go. Okay, that is the actual link. I can also post it on Discord. Yes, I can do that too. I should change the name of this. I should say the weekend stream or something, but it's the Sunday stream, so over on the Discord, I'm posting the link to that now. So there you go. Oh, when you post the link, it says, check out this real estate flyer designed by somebody else I won't say on the air. It was under the category of a real estate flyer. Okay. Anyway, so there you go. Yeah. Advocacy, Mocha Mixtape is an actual album. According to Google, it is out of stock, though. Mocha Mixtape. I've never heard of that before. But then I might fall within the wrong demographic to know what that means. So, anyway, everybody, I have run out of material, and I think my voice is running out as well. Speaking of the Discord server, before I forget, and I haven't forgotten, if you'd like to join the Discord server, there is a link to the Discord server, an actual link, not just something I put in there, in the chat right now. All you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you are not a bot. Actually watch the stream and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is coverup. Just say hello, coverup, and I'll know that you watched the show. Outside of that, you can find me Monday. I don't think they're taking the day off. Monday morning at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, noon 05 p.m. Eastern Time for Midnight's Edge in the morning, where I'm sure the topic of the day will be the box office from the weekend of Lilo and Stitch and the new Mission Impossible movie, and so on and so forth, plus other entertainment news. As well, unless something radically changes. Oh, wait. Something will radically change. That's right. There will be no DEI Death Watch episode on Monday because schedules only aligned on that day. I will be off having my birthday lunch with Sister Scribe. So, unfortunately, I will not be around for the DEI Death Watch episode. I may try to do one later in the week, possibly on Wednesday. Well, maybe I'll do it on Tuesday. I'll let you guys know. I just realized that was going to run into usual schedule. So there may be a DEI Death Watch on Tuesday. So keep an eye out for that. I'll let you guys know in the Discord. And on the X machine, follow me on X, scribe_light. At least when X is working, because it's had its issues the last couple of days. Let's see. Also, yes, as Ken Lee mentions in the chat, lick that smash button. Or smash that like button, whichever you prefer. If you decide to lick your screen, more power to you. But yeah, if you would, leave a like on the way out and or share this out to other people. Or if you're over on the X machine and you can actually see it on X, granted it's working, I am simulcasting on the X machine. So please retweet this out if you have the opportunity. And if you're here in the future or can right now, leave a comment. I hear that all of this stuff contributes to the algorithm. I'm still waiting for evidence of that, but by all means. Otherwise, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. And anything that you don't do is taken up, the slack is at least, by DogCatFox. Wowie, wow, wow. See, DogCatFox is always watching, always vigilant. I really need to find a way to add DogCatFox to the show that says it's DogCatFox and Friend. I need to find, how could I possibly add more DogCatFox to this?
Wowee! Wow! Wow!
I might find a way. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much. I forgot to say, thank you guys so much for your generosity, whether it was to me or to the fundraisers at the top of the chat box. Please take a look at those when you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share this out on social media, that'd be appreciated. Everyone, please enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I hope you have a good Sunday ahead of you. For those of you that have Monday off for the holiday, make it a good one. For those of you that don't, I hope that your workday is quiet and without too much stress. And I hope that you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.